I think all of us can say that we fear that leap of faith, that finding comfort in other people, that going the extra distance and seeing the things we never thought possible in ourselves and in others. And that is the ultimate wonder experience.
Well, thank you, Sampson, for having me. Thanks for allowing me to record in your crystalled out abode here.
Yeah, the Crystal Palace.
Pretty much. Showed me the setup and everything. It looks pretty cool. You've obviously been doing this a while, so.
Yeah.
So this episode, we're going to have Sampson on, who is kind of quintessentially, I guess, a rock hound, I guess you'd say, and kind of a jeweler as well. So, yeah. So what kind of got you into the matrix of crystals?
Yeah, it's okay. So this whole deal started for me about 6 years ago. That's when I really started to get into crystals and stones. But I've always been into stones. When I was a kid, I collected. I remember in like kindergarten is when I really started collecting. I remember going to my friend and I went to a garage sale, and I found like a 25-cent little amethyst piece, and that was kind of where it started.
Just the whole went downhill after that. Huh?
Yes. So I was into the sciences and that kind of thing as a kid. And my parents did have some stones as well around the house. So that's actually kind of what catapulted me into this in a more serious way. So when I was I know we talked a little bit about this, but when I was in high school, I really struggled with mental health and grief, really struggled with depression and substance abuse and those sorts of things. My parents both passed away when I was really young, when I was like 3 and 4, or when my parents passed away. So that was really difficult for me as I got to be in my teenage years, hit puberty. You throw hormones in with...
Definitely causes some chaos. I know that understanding.
Yeah, so that was... I really was in a dark place for a long time. I'd say from like 12 to 19. That was kind of like my world was... mental health issues, psychiatry. I was a ward of the state for a little while. I spent 3 months in residential treatment facilities and all that jazz. So towards the end of that is I had kind of a turning point where it was I either died or ended up in an institution for the rest of my life, or I changed. And that was a pretty clear distinction. I had been in and out of like 12-step programs and that kind of thing, and I really did get to that point of, it was for me, I was either going to end up in a morgue or institutionalized.
Yeah, I think I actually did a speech in front of people about that because I was a ward of the state. The percentages are pretty horrible. So for example, if you're a female as a state ward, your chances of being pregnant go up 150%, like literally. Your chances of being homeless after you turn 18 are almost 45% in youth. Your drug dependency is, versus your peers that never entered a group home or anything like that, is almost like 60 to 70%. Wow. And people have always questioned me on it, but you can look this information up on any government website or I think the most alarming statistic is 1 in 5 after leaving the system will at some point attempt or succeed at suicide, which is it's kind of disheartening because it's a really broken system for sure. Like I can see that, and there's not. I think people definitely have the wool over their eyes on it. It's kind of one of the kind of forgotten things, because I'm also assuming like your education kind of took a hit with that as well at some point.
Honestly, no. I mean, in high school it didn't. Once I got to college, though, that's where
you noticed it. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't go. I was signed up. I was supposed to be going, but I had kind of shifted away from self-harm at that point. But for me, the drug use was terrible, and I was really in a spot where I had no hope to live, so I kind of just planned to blot myself out until I passed away. So, you know, the education at that point, it was like, well, yeah, I failed everything, so I didn't go. But, you know, in high school, you know, it didn't really affect I was pretty good in school, and, you know, it was pretty easy for me, you know, to kind of just coast through. But
for me, it was more like, it was like being cryogenically frozen for like 3 years, because so it would have been 2004. The time between 2004 to 2008, like the technological advancements and everything else,
for sure,
astronomical.
Yeah,
you know. And so when I came out, like, I thought a flip phone was cool, and I was seeing people have touch phones and stuff, you know, like, because, you know, I wasn't exposed to technology and I didn't know what the new hip thing was. And then you had like Facebook. Facebook just came out, like, and so did MySpace, and it was just. I was definitely kind of behind the curve. I was kind of a dinosaur compared to the other kids. Like the other kids were able to, you know. And now technology is like my friend, but before technology was just like this daunting thing to like try and figure out and do. So, but it's weird. Yeah, it's also kind of funny that, you know, your first stone was amethyst, because that's a pretty good stone for like addictions and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So like maybe that was like a. Do you still have that same stone? Or?
No, I don't. No, I had my like original stone collection until probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little longer than that. But I did finally, like, I don't even know what I ended up doing with them. I may have just returned them, put them back outside, honestly.
I've done that before. Sometimes it feels right.
But it was kind of my childhood rock collection. There wasn't anything crazy in there, but it would have been kind of nice to have them still. But even the crystals that were my parents, kind of along my healing process, I personally felt like I was meant to give those away.
Or do something with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, most of those, I think I might have one or two, but I think pretty much all of them I gave away. Or a couple of them are out in the earth elsewhere. So, but yeah, it was kind of towards the end of that whole deal where I was really struggling. I meditated with one of my mom's rose quartz. She had like a rose quartz wand. And I remember I was so paranoid. I was bugging out all the time, 24/7. I was developing like literally schizophrenia.
Was it just from lack of sleep, or?
I think it was the substances. You know, like honestly, I think it was drug induced. Compounded with all this time of mental health, and you know, I wasn't medicated or anything like that, and I was really paranoid, and even when I stopped using any substances, I would still. It didn't change. I didn't get sober. It was still chaos in my mental state. And I remember meditating with my mom. Like, it was the first time I meditated. I held my mom's rose quartz and I laid in my bed, and I would listen to like binaural beats and like certain frequencies. Yeah. So I was laying there, and I can't recall exactly, but I had a vision. Like, I literally went so deep into my body. It was like I sank below my bed into the floor. And I had this vision, and it was like a big release of emotions. I was crying. I remember seeing like the earth, and it was two, like a masculine and a feminine. The whole planet was combined, and it was just this. It was beyond words to explain. But right after that, it was a shift. Like, something happened. And I was like, I need to go meditate on a mountain. That was my first. I get it. That was my first thing. Was like, I had this calling. Like, I need to go do this. And that I very quickly was like, all right, I need a car. I have to go to Colorado. Lined up a friend who was kind of into the esoteric things.
Kind of jumped you forward, you'd say?
Yeah, I went and stayed with him, and it went terribly. It went very badly. But this was kind of the catalyst to get me onto a new path. It was really surreal. Like, strange stuff was happening out in Colorado. His family was saying that I was like possessed by a demon. And it was some really out there stuff. Like, I know it sounds bizarre, but it was out there. And honestly, I don't know if I can tell you what was real and what was in my mental state. But there was definitely some weird things going down. They were talking about like getting abducted by aliens, and they were a little...
You meet some crazy cats when you...
I mean, this was like an old childhood friend and his family, and long story short, I ended up, I mean, it was like I was in an in-between. Like, I was in between worlds.
Trying to transition to whatever you're supposed to become? Or
I mean, at the time, it was like I had to decide if I wanted to live or if I wanted to go home to the Creator. That was, I mean, like, I had met with, at this time, might sound weird to say or to listen to, but I remember meeting with a walk-in angel. There was a being that came to me as I was down in their basement sleeping, came to me and said, like, it was asking me questions about myself. It was like I met with an angel that if I wasn't truly happy living, I could have gone home. Like, I believe that if you ask for something honestly, that the Creator doesn't hold that back. And if you really are not happy on this planet, I don't really think that that's wrong. I think that's everybody's choice to make, but I believe personally that a Creator or the energy of the universe listens to that. And I was really asking, like, hey, this is not who I am. This is not my life.
Right.
I don't want to be here anymore. So, and then I went from that to like meeting with the other side of like meeting with my personal demons, or whether they're personal or external, who's to say, but it went from meeting with this one energy and having discussions with this entity to having discussions with this like demonic entity.
Reflection of yourself, maybe, or something.
Yeah, you know, I really think, I personally kind of feel like dark energies, you know, I think there's a lot of truth and we create things.
I was talking to somebody and they're saying like you tap into like two different like entities or beings, and like one can either be a really bad version of yourself, and one can be a really, like, I think that everybody has a polarization of yin and yang. You
For
know?
sure, yeah. We're all, I think it's more complex than, you know, like,
you know, like
one or the other. The universe is a interesting
we're only,
place.
like, living in 3 dimensions. Like, who's to say what the 4th dimension would
Hey, I don't know what
really,
else is out there.
Yeah,
you know?
look like, because like that's a quantum level of computation that our brains just probably couldn't handle. You know?
Yeah. I feel like, you know, we are definitely divine, but we also are human. You know, there's like, and the reality of Earth is, you know, there's good things and there's really terrible things, you know.
Oh yeah, with anything.
That's kind of the...
most things are living to see. Like, there's just, I think people get so stuck in their immediate bubble. Like, I mean, like, you could read about a mountain, but to actually, like, be on a mountain is
For sure.
completely different,
Yeah.
you know? Or, like, see the ocean, but to, like one of the more majestic things I ever saw was, like, the Redwood Coast.
Oh,
Yeah, you know, where you're just, like, over rock ledges and stuff, and
Absolutely.
crashing in, and you got these giant trees, you know? And it's like, I think if... me and Scotty were talking about, I think if people had a lot more purpose, they probably wouldn't do or you know, go to things the way they do. So,
For sure, yeah. I think finding purpose is, like, that's kind of been this journey, is me finding something that I'm passionate about, something that's helped me, something that helps other people as well. And this, and now it's, you know, this is 6 years down the line, and now all these little pieces that, you know, I started working with crystals for healing, kind of after that whole breakdown thing. I was given a chance, you know. I either go this way and
go the other way,
or change, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But I decided to make those changes.
I kind of ran into one of those points.
Yeah.
Before I started traveling for 4 years, you know, it was like, it was a really dark hole, and you know, I was cut myself off from everybody and stuff, and it was just like, it's like, okay, I've tried everything here, like, and then I ended up I ended up driving my car out and I parked it somewhere, and then like I took a bunch of pills and stuff and like drank a bunch of vodka. And I don't really drink, for those people that don't know. But anyways, like I can't remember what, like I got my hands on a lot of different things. Like I was for shooing gonna do it, and then like I remember passing out. I remember like basically just like getting like little. You ever see those, like you put the circle in and then you flick it and you see a picture of each thing?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, kind of like a slideshow. I saw like little brief like slideshow highlights of like things I was going to do. Yeah. And then I just remember waking up puking. And at the time I was like really pissed because I was like, I'm so done with this plane of existence. And after that I was like, all right, so I obviously can't like go that route because something wants me to stick around. I was like, so now I got to pursue whatever it is I was shown.
Yeah, man. That's a blessing. You know, that's real too. I'm glad that you know, it's cool to see that at that turning point, whether it's spirit or something is there that says, hey,
this is why you're here.
And it's really funny. That's my experience was that moment. There was literally a point in time when it's like either I'm going to die or change. And it's like, and I had a choice, and I was able to look and say, did I come here to do what I was supposed to do? And the answer was no. I did not do and accomplish what I came to this planet to do. So I've got to go back and do that. So, and that was what gave me some strength to get through. And it was, you know, scary. I'm sure your experience getting away from that was, you know, growing is painful. It takes time and energy, and it's like,
I think at the time I was just so over everything. I was like,
you're ready for that.
Yeah, I was just like, fuck it, like whatever, like
whatever it takes.
Yeah, tower. Like I think at the time, like after that event, like it was either like I was gonna train to be a mercenary over in France. Okay. I was going to like I went the extreme route. I was gonna be a lobster fisherman out in Alaska. Tower climber, or there was like one other dangerous job that I was going to do somewhere, but ended up being a tower hand. So
That's cool. I mean, mine was not. I didn't make any big changes like that. Mine was very gradual. I was like a pizza delivery driver. Knew I wanted to work with crystals, but no jobs ever opened up. So it took me some time to. I had to do like keep things simple and really do the inner work. And for me, that meant just, you know, living a normal life and getting involved in recovery programs. I started doing like chakra balances every 3 weeks. So like for me, being sober was the key. Working with stones and kind of getting involved in like the metaphysical and the holistic healing. And I was on medications and stuff at the time as well. But it took me probably 3 or 4 years to really like heal from, you know, and it wasn't just substances. It's like, what's the root issue of all these things?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, I was talking to my cousin McKenna about this the other night when I was sitting and eating turkey with her. I was like, you know, almost 80% of most imbalances in the body can be solved with just a simple multivitamin and a mineral supplement. Yeah. And to think about that, it's like shocking, because
for sure
we've been so trained to think that it's just like this unbearable, fixable.
Yeah. I have it. It's a multifaceted thing. You know, you have the physical body, then you've got emotions, mental, and you know, trauma, healing trauma, and all that.
Then you're karmatic and spiritual.
Yeah. But the physical is a big part of it, and that was part of it. I had
if you can take one of the chinks out like that, it just kind of follows down the road.
Absolutely, and that was part of my deal. Was I became vegetarian soon after that, and that helped me quite a bit to help my body detox. No, I'm not. I would say I'm mostly vegan, but
throw a little meat here and there.
I do, yeah. If someone cooks me good food and it has meat in it, like
that's the requirement.
Yeah, for real. Like that's the way I look at it. Is somebody prepares me something and there's like love in this and it's offered.
Yeah, I get that.
You know, I will eat that. I do some seafood. Seafood's probably what I do most of. But I'm not strict. You know, my normal routine is to eat vegan mostly, But twice a month I'll eat seafood. I'll eat some, very rarely I'll have chicken, beef, that sort of thing. But it's very rare.
Get you.
Most of the time, like my body feels the best, and it feels I have the best energy when I'm pretty well vegan, and then a little bit of that for that kind of, I don't know, I would almost call it that like primal energy. And I'm sure some of it's the iron and some of those things that are in there.
I noticed a huge difference once I started really like diving deep in it. For me, vegan really wasn't an option because I was traveling the road. That's
for sure.
Where am I going to find vegetables on the
And cooking, it becomes much more complicated in a
than being
space.
home. Now I'm trying to like slowly transition into that thing, but I found once I started taking supplements, it just kind of shifted, and like my energy levels went up and stuff. And it's amazing how much a simple like, and with my supplements, I take all natural or pretty much as close as I can to like
the raw food,
food of the thing. And I've noticed a huge shift in that, and I advocate that to people. I'm like, well, it starts, you think about it. If you're eating Debbie snack cakes and drinking soda all the time, you're basically replacing your body with Debbie snack cakes. And
for sure, There's a reality to that. I love sweets, and
100%.
I definitely don't stay away from it 100%, but it is really important to be getting all your nutrients because. It's amazing, what a little vitamin D, especially in the wintertime, like seasonal depression is a thing.
100%.
It's important to be able to get that even if you can't go outside and get sunshine.
See, I was trying
hours a day.
but I kind of need like a female friend because I don't know how the hell to tan. Like, let's be honest. Like,
towel, I think maybe a mirror,
Well, no, I was talking about the beds themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I think you just strip down, put some goggles on, and hop in,
Like some things I can do, and then there's some things like...
For sure. I'll probably stay away from the tanning beds, but I'll take some vitamin D in the winter.
Well, even the red room therapy, I don't know if you've heard about that, where they take like a certain frequency light of red, and then they beam you with it.
I did have a red lamp. I did have one of those infrared lights.
Okay.
It wasn't like a full. It was it was on a big stand, and I got it from an acupuncturist in Lincoln that would use it in some of their therapies. I used it a little bit, but not a whole lot. I've heard decent things about it, but getting things like sauna. I've seen them used in saunas and stuff too.
Yeah.
But I haven't, beyond like the red or the infrared saunas. I've only done them a couple.
It's usually what I do when I get done working out at Planet Fitness. Is just sit in the red.
Yeah.
Whether it does anything or not, like I don't know. I haven't really but I notice like when I'm not consistent with my supplement routine, like, oh man, it's like a huge.
Interesting.
Shift.
It drains it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I feel that.
So, are you is like working with rocks and stuff basically like full time now? Is that how you're able to?
Yeah. So I'll finish I'll briefly summarize. So obviously there's we go in a lot more depth with it, but I'll summarize the last kind of how I got into this whole deal. I had a collection of a few stones during that big break-off point. Like I was working with 2 stones. I was working with Super 7 and a selenite wand, and those were like my talismans, that I kind of my figure points that I hung on to. And after then, like I said, I started delving into the holistic side. I was working a lot with crystals with a local shop, Euphoria. They're a great store. I was doing the crystal or the chakra balances there and learning about the minerals and starting to work with them more on like a daily practice. That evolved into me traveling to Denver for the Denver Gem Show, which was 5 years ago now. It was the first time I went. I was like, I quit my job. I was working at a pizza place. I was delivering pizza at Da Vinci's. And I was like, I want to work in this business. I'm going to go make it happen. And I drove out there, spent like 5 days in Denver, went to the show, bought some cool stones, and then was like, well, time to go back home. And like a week and a half after that, I was back at the pizza place. But that was the start. You know, I knew that there was something there that I needed. I wanted to work there. I would love to have worked in Lincoln, but nothing ever opened up for me here.
Yeah, Lincoln's not really a mineral hub.
Yeah, there's good people. The places that we do have are great, but for whatever reason, I'm going to just say, hey, the Spirit, that was not the opening for me.
Right.
So a couple of years went by. I would go to the Denver show every year. I then decided in late 2018, I decided that I was going to, the time frame gets a little weird, but I ended up, it was my third Denver show. I called a guy that I had bought from and I asked him, hey, do you ever need help? I would love to work with you at this show. I'll kind of do whatever you need. You know, how do I get in here? And he said, okay. He's like, I remember who you are. And he said, you know, I pay $10 an hour cash. These are the dates. You know, he thought I lived in Denver, which I obviously didn't. I don't. But I drove out and stayed with family, worked for him. And that was my start. That was kind of the in. And I knew as soon as I worked that first show that this is what I'm supposed to do. This feels so good. I love being able to socialize, and I was at that point. I was about 3 years into it, and so I was able to share what I knew about the stones, and that felt really good. Being able to work for a metaphysical vendor that he focused on the energy. So we're selling to people that are energy healers that have metaphysical shops, and it was really a cool experience. And that led to me working for another company in Tucson, which is like the really big show. And and then in this last year, during the pandemic, I had acquired a bunch of new material while working the Tucson show, and was like, all right, this is the year. Like, I'm gonna start. Well, I guess I started selling crystals, but I had started doing silversmithing in 2019. So I asked a local guy if he would teach me the basics, and he worked with me for like 3 days and helped me make my first 3 pieces of jewelry. And that was another thing that, you know, I was starting to pick up, like, all right, the gem shows feel great. This silversmithing feels good. It feels like a skill that I'd done before. It kind of came naturally to me. Mm-hmm. So then I was like, all right, jewelry, stones. I love both of these. Well, let's do both of them.
Right.
So I started my own business in 2020 officially. And it's not my only source of income, but right now it is my full-time deal. Like, that's what I'm doing while I'm in Nebraska. Then I travel around probably 4 or 5 months of the year, and I work for a bigger company seasonally. So I work at the Tucson show for Starborn Creations, and I work for them at the Denver show too. So that's like three or 4 months of work depending on the year. Mm-hmm. So that's like a big help for me. That's where I get a lot of inventory, is at the shows, and then I'm able to also get some good income from them. That's a little more stable and consistent, whereas the jewelry and my business, it is taking time to build connections and kind of piece together. Having an Etsy shop is one thing. Having an Etsy shop make a livable wage and is a different thing. Yeah. Or being able to turn this into a real brand is different than having an Instagram, business.
Yeah.
100,000. It's different. If there's people that do that and it works, but I don't have 70,000 followers. I have like 900.
Well, even talking to Jonathan Bell, who has like 125,000 on TikTok, like he's still working at a.
Yeah, it takes real. Like, I'm realizing now, like, it's going pretty well. It's growing, but I'm now looking at going back to school. I mean, I'm in a way I'm taking a step back.
What would you go to?
I'm looking at going to GIA, which is the Gemological Institute of America.
Oh, where's that at?
They have one in New York, and then one's in Carlsbad in California.
Which would you lean more towards?
Probably the California one, the Carlsbad.
Yeah,
I'm not a... Yeah, I've never actually been to New York, so I can't really say whether I like it or not, but...
I think you'd do better in California, honestly, with your...
I think so. From what I've heard, I'm a very personable person. I like to talk to strangers.
It's not like that in New York. That's not to say that they're bad people. It's
kind of a different flow.
They come off rough. They're rough. They're rough gems.
Yeah.
They're rough gems, but beautiful at the same time.
Like,
Once you crack them open like a geode, you kind of see
Yeah.
the beauty of them, you know. I learned that the hard way my first time going to New York. It was pretty rough.
For sure. I need to visit at some point, but I'm becoming a gemologist, like a graduate gemologist is the program, and if I do it in person, it's only 6 months, but if I do it online, it'll take me probably a year and a half maybe. So,
what city is it based out of?
It's Carlsbad. Yeah,
I'm trying to think where
like
that's
North San Diego, like.
Oh, I was gonna say if it's out of LA, you might.
Yeah, south of LA. Yeah, and thinking about, for me, I'm born and raised here in the Midwest. Like this business, this is not the place for me, which is like kind of the reality I'm waking up to is this is not the place for me to thrive. Yeah, I can do well here. I'm satisfied. It's cheap living. I have the things that I need, but at the same time,
just want to go all out.
Yeah,
the big show.
I think so. Like I want to do the best that I can, and it's like if I really want to be the very best that I can be, that's going to mean going and studying for a year and taking a year's time to, in a way, take a step back from the day-to-day business and say, I'm going to put this, in a way, on hold just a little bit so I can deepen my understanding and my knowledge and come out of it after a year way farther ahead, even though internally, the business might look similar, but me as a person will have grown a lot. I'll have more credibility. Like these are things that actually do make a difference in, will make me stand out a little more than where I'm currently at. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm going to be pivoting in a way to study
towards that level.
Learn.
Yeah.
And,
that's what I had to do when I came back. I was already looking at going to school because I was just like, I need to figure out something to do passively. And I was like, I'm really good with computers. I'm really good with video editing. Well, I mean, like relatively, like I could work on it more. But I was like coding. Like I sat and talked with my friend Emily Yates. Shout out to Emily, who'll be on at some point. But she just she started kind of in that field, but like evolved into it, and she's traveling all over the parts of Europe, and I'm just like,
nice.
I want to do that. Like I know I'm meant to do that. Shannon says that she's like, yeah, you could be a mini Tony Robbins, And I'm just like, maybe we'll see about that, but
it's like strive to make an impact.
Definitely. That's my ultimate goal. Like obviously, I'm still building. I'm only 31. I got time, but
absolutely.
And meanwhile, what I do is I think there's a lot of financial illiteracy that people have, like at 18 to 20.
For sure.
So like anytime I get around my cousins or stuff, I'm like, look, if you wanna work until you're like me, keep doing what you're doing. If you want to like maybe retire at 31 and make some risky choices and stuff that may pay off, may not, like do this.
For sure, yeah. Especially in the world of today's with crypto and all that. I have some friends that are, they're making big come ups, and they're working. It's a learning thing. They're studying.
Oh yeah, it's constantly evolving. You never can.
Yeah.
Like first it was coins, now it's NFTs, now it's metaverse. It's never.
For sure, there's a whole world.
Yeah. But I think with the technology degree that I'm going to get, like a lot of those things are coming. Oh, okay, peer-to-peer network. That's what this means. Okay, that makes sense. File storage. Okay, just various things that these coins are doing, and I guess like kind of gives me like an insider to like, okay, these coins are underpriced for what they're going to do in the future. We just we just don't have the technology in place.
Yeah.
And I was
Interesting.
I was explaining to the 18 and 20-year-old cousins I have. I was like, look, basically, your generation is sitting where your mom's generation was when the internet first launched.
For sure. Yeah. That's an
like,
interesting way to think about it. Yeah.
And
how much has changed and how much growth, and there's a lot of success from people coming up with ideas and trying things out that someone might have said, hey, that's stupid, or that'll never work.
Yeah. What was even interesting is like one of the cats that my cousin is dating, he's going into history.
Okay.
And he's like really into history, so I started quizzing him, the Richard Nixon and the Taft Act and all that, and he's just like naming it off, and I was like, okay. And I started putting it in history examples. I was like, when the radio first came out, people in the radio didn't want to go to the TV because they thought it was a fad. Well, those people ended up not being anything, and then TV came out, and then it was like, okay, now we got shows and sitcoms, and then the internet came out. Yeah. Like 40-ish years later, and people were like, well, I'm not going to be on the internet. And boom, YouTube stars. Yeah. And so it's constantly evolving. If you can follow people's attentions, you'll follow where the money's supposed to be made. So that's kind of what I do. Is whenever I get to a young person, I just kind of like, this is the meat of the issue. So
yeah, very cool. It's good to study, and nowadays there's so many new things, and we have access to a lot of information that you don't always need a college degree or like continued education. But for some people it helps, and you find that it's necessary, but it's awesome being able to learn some of these things just online. Like the amount of information you have access to, if you're willing to look into it, it's, you could become an expert in a lot of things just by literally reading things.
That's what I think is so funny is like, you ever watch Transformers?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're like,
it's a great movie.
Yeah, he's like, Wicky's like, how'd you learn to speak English? The World Wide Web.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, Optimus is just like, we learned everything about your species from the World Wide Web. And I'm
there
just
you go. Welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah. It's insane. Like, we literally have the Library of Alexandria in a thing the size of a small little book.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
That's mind-blowing. Me and Scotty were talking about that, and he's like, yeah, dude, if you would have went back like 130 years ago, people would think you're witchcraft.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like, stare into this black void and you can find any information that you seek,
Yeah, it's wild, dude, and like it's both crazy, interesting, and scary to think about like where it'll be.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it leads to. Yeah.
I also think that it's pretty funny that like quartz and silica is like one of the main components of a computer, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, they have. I mean, it's cool. They have a lot of applications beyond the energetic stuff. It's like scientific quartz is huge. Rockets, lasers, watches. So like, there's a bunch of stuff. Radio receivers. Think about all the minerals and metals and all the applications of them. It's good, It's usually the stuff I work with wouldn't be used for that application.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like, people in the spiritual community don't really realize how much the scientific community accesses those crystals just as
for sure. Yeah,
I think they made like a battery diamond. Did you hear about that?
I don't know if I have.
I don't know exactly. I think they like put carbon around like a radioactive isotope. It's very little electricity, but they're trying to figure out a way to scale it. But basically, they put the radioactive isotope inside the carbon, and then for whatever molecular reason, it generates a charge.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's just a way of different alternative energy sources. Yeah, it'd be cool to see. I mean, I think there's a nice, beautiful blending. For me, like, true metaphysics and true science is a blending of the two. It's where you can meet in the middle and say that, okay, if this does this, with electricity and affects these things. All right, then what would that effect have on, your energy, the energy of the earth, all these things? I think there's a nice blending. I think hopefully there's, more experimenting in the future with technology so we can measure some of these things. I know there's a little bit of that out there right now, but
I think Tesla was the closest we came to having somebody really tap into that.
I wish that I even could say more, say that I knew more about what he did and what, even understood it.
It's so broad, it's really
it's hard for me to say, I know that it was some out there stuff and he was on to something, but I have yet to see, what did he actually do? I would like to learn more, actually, because it's amazing to see, that's so different. It's a way of saying either this is going to be a way of the future or this, and we went the other way.
I'd like to think that a lot of the elements we use in daily basis are off the documents that the government took from his. Because most of the fun fact about Tesla, he actually had a photogenic memory.
Okay.
So a lot of the plans and details and stuff he kept inside of his brain. One of the more notorious stories, whether you want to, then there's actual factual basis on it, based on reports of police and stuff like that. He made a earthquake device.
Okay.
And so he turned it on, and the building, everybody had to evacuate the building.
Yeah.
And then the police ended up coming, and they watched him just smashing the hell out of this device, and the shaking went away. So it's if he could do that,
Yeah. For sure. There's other stuff going on too.
Yeah.
What haven't we seen?
But as far as your favorite stone, what's your
favorite stone? Whew. I would say that there's probably two that
stick out to you.
Two that stick out. In general, I'm a huge sucker for quartz with inclusions.
So tourmaline and rutilated quartz.
There's all kinds of just weird inclusions found inside quartz.
Or the hydro quartz. Have you got one of those yet?
Yes, with the
water
bubbles.
and
Yep,
somebody actually had a petroleum quartz.
Cool.
It had a little petroleum.
Yeah, the ones I have are carbon. I have carbon bubble. They're moving black carbon bubbles. Yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
So they're kind of laying around. I'll have to pull those out. But you can see instead of a water bubble, it's a black solid mass that moves around in there. I think I have some of the water ones. I actually don't think it's water though. They're called anhydrous, but my understanding is it's actually acidic liquid. And as that evaporates, that's actually what's eating away the pocket that the water or the liquid travels around in. So I don't actually think it's water in most of them. I think it's some sort of acidic liquid.
Sulfuric or something like that.
So as it burns away, it's eating holes in the crystal, which allows it to move freely. And maybe at the end you're left with a little bit of water, but I think it's actually some sort of an acid. That's my understanding, but I could be wrong in that.
That'd be pretty sweet.
But that's what's allowing that pocket to form so it can move around. But that would take a lot of time.
You're talking thousands of years, hundreds of years.
Yeah, they're really cool. So quartz with inclusions. Specifically, there's one called Demortyrite Quartz, which is a bright blue inclusion. They're found mainly in one spot in Brazil. The nice ones come from one spot in Brazil. And they make these beautiful flower bursts of blue that burst into the clear quartz.
Oh, okay.
And they're stunning.
Kind of like spinel tendrils, kind of in a way.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I'm trying to think. The crystal structure just kind of in spinel, just kind of
it bursts out. Yeah, it's like a little explosion inside the quartz. Those are the really nice ones. So those are, but any cool inclusions I'm into. And then my other all-time favorite is going to be Phenokite. Phenokite, yeah. It's found at several locations around the world. It's actually found on Mount Antero in Colorado, actually. But they're typically small crystals. It's like a beryllium silica. And I like it personally for the energetic properties.
Oh, okay.
For me, it's one of those stones that when I hold, I literally feel my energy just expand.
Just wave out. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I feel also it has, for me, some sort of mental focus. It's a mental shift more noticeably than like
I get it.
I don't really, it's a mental. I feel like I get hyper focused when I have that stone. Like it's a way of imagining and visualizing, but also knowing what actions need to be taken to get to this vision that you're
supposed to
if you set
achieve.
an intention while working with it, it's like
Boom.
you know what you have to do. Like it's not going to necessarily do the work for you, but
It just lays out the plan or the paperwork.
it seems to be like a catalyst of like, all right, it kind of stimulates for me that logical side with balance of the intuitive of you imagine it and then this is what I have to do to get there.
Yeah.
And that's my summary of Phenokite for me personally.
What's it kind of look like physically?
It's pretty ugly. Yeah,
It's pretty.
pretty ugly. It's depends on where they come from, but most of them are pretty ugly.
Sometimes it doesn't have to be pretty to get the job done.
Yeah,
Like,
I kind of think that's part of the Phenokite's deal is that, if you were to look, if I were to put out 10 crystals around my house and 2 of them were Phenokite, I could almost guarantee you'd look right over them and I say, hey, which one do you like? Which one do you want? I'd say, probably 10 times out of 10 times you would not pick the Phenokite because it looks average. It looks like a milky quartz. It's,
okay.
The really nice ones will be, they'll be super clear and very pretty, but they're not amazingly
not like a
beautiful.
sparkling.
No, they're not colorful. They're not, the ones that I have are kind of yellowish because they have some iron staining on them. But they're pretty average, like they don't look like much, but they energetically they pack a punch, and they're rare. They're a rare stone. Like it's not a common mineral, but it's on the note of what they look like. Phenokite means the deceiver.
Oh yeah,
because
that's kind of funny.
when they first found it, it looks a lot like quartz. And it's similar in hardness to quartz as well.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
it
so I can
got
see how that
Phenokite because it, people thought it was quartz, but it was a different mineral. So it was the deceiver.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So those are kind of my 2 favorites. I mean, obviously I love moldavite.
Yeah, you got a ton of it.
I got a ton of moldavite, but it's a great stone. I wear it every day. But I wouldn't say that it's like my all-time favorite,
Yeah, that's probably my all-time favorite.
That's what's up. Hey,
Yeah.
I love it, but it's, yeah.
I know what you mean by what you're talking about hyperfocus. When I had a meteorite, like it, I wore that with my moldavite, and it just seemed to like, I don't know, space stones in general, they're just like,
Yes. Space gems.
yeah.
I'm into it. As you know, this year especially, I've gotten more into the meteorites.
Yeah. For those that don't know, he has like a huge when he does do his little sales and stuff. He has like a huge display of Libyan desert glass and moldavite and a few meteorites. I think he kind of sold the bulk of it. And they're not just like metal meteorites either. They're like metal meteorites with. They call it olivine, but I don't know the actual technical term for it.
The olivine's the technical term. The more common name would be peridot.
Peridot, yeah.
Peridot,
so it's basically space peridot, which funny enough, is my birthstone. So
Or is that May?
No, Leo.
August?
It'd be, August.
Okay. I knew it was one of the summer months.
Yeah. So like my all-time goal is to eventually get like a gem quality meteorite, faceted, olivine.
Yeah,
That'd be dope.
It's funny you mentioned that. I recently found out that was a thing. They have them. I saw some on eBay actually, where they're already faceted from the olivine in the palisite meteorites. And I was like, what? There's literal like space gems?
Yeah. Well, the crazy
on.
thing about them is the green is such a vibrant change from like an earth peridot, where it's kind of like a darker green, that it like. They almost kind of sparkle when you faucet them, depending on the quality of the cut and everything else.
Yeah, the ones I've seen online were like they're more on the yellow. They weren't.
Yeah.
But I was pretty. I bet you could. That would be really cool to find a green one.
Well, I think what people do is they might like either extreme cold them or like heat them.
Okay.
Can't remember exactly the scientific process of what they do, because I know some stones, if you if you put them in like liquid nitrogen or something, it changes the color dramatically.
For sure. Yeah, a lot of stones will be heated as well, like tanzanite. I mean, there's so many stones that are heated to change color as well. So
I would say, as far as my favorite earth stone, tanzanite's probably my favorite.
Cool.
Like,
yeah, they're
like,
nice.
Earth stone.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I'm really into like the charites, the the one location, can't find it anywhere else stones.
Yeah, I feel you. That's tanzanite's nice. I don't have any crazy pieces of tanzanite, but I have some nice smaller pieces.
I was up in Maine, and this lady had like probably about a 50-cent piece size, and like you could like see through it like it was a window.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a couple $1,000s she wanted for that piece. And I was like, if I had like just FU money, I would totally like snatch it up.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too with the stone world, and part of why I like this whole business and this community that this builds is it's a worldwide community. Like that's a really nice thing about the mineral kingdom is, man, there's collectors, there's miners, like there's a whole network of people in every single country in the world.
Yeah.
Every country has something different. It has some stone to offer, something that they find and mine and dig and then are able to share with the world, and it's like tanzanite. That's one of the really cool things about Tanzania. And
you can only find it there, and I think it's like 8 miles under the ground, isn't it? Or
I'm not sure actually. I don't really know.
I know it's underneath a mountain, and it's like.
From my understanding, it's a really small area. I know it's a really small area that it's found in, but I don't know. I mean, I have no idea what the process looks like.
Yeah, that's why it goes for such a heavy price. There for a while, the mine was actually shut down because people got trapped, and then like the price just like skyrocketed.
Yeah, and now the government's actually not allowing the export of raw tanzanite.
So you have to buy it there.
I'm sure there's ways around it, but their intention is that anything that is dug up in Tanzania now has to be, typically what will happen is the rough material is then exported to somewhere like India. Say China buys it, India buys it.
Oh, to get it phosphated and stuff like that.
People will then polish it, make them into cabochons or, facet them into gemstones. But that's typically done out of the country of origin. So instead of them doing it in Tanzania, a lot of cutting's done in Thailand and India. Specifically, those are kind of big ones. And then from there it goes, say there's a wholesale buyer that buys it all in the UK or Germany or the US or Russia, wherever.
So they're trying to cut out that middleman?
Exactly. They want to keep, and it's great, they want to employ people in their country so that they're not, because then they lose the bulk of the value. If they sell the rough to India, who then cuts it and then they sell it, they're going to lose out on a lot of the actual value because they didn't do the work to cut it. So the government has stopped all export of raw tanzanite, but I know that there's maybe exceptions or ways around it for specimens or that kind of thing, because I still see people getting them, but it's most of it now is they're requiring it's all done in that country and then shipped out and sent, and it's still still available, but getting much harder. And like you said, the price is going up a lot.
Yeah. Well, and like one of the other things is like some of the best quality, like most amazing gems you'll ever find in Pakistan. Pakistan is like.
Yeah, there's good stuff coming out of there. I haven't messed with a lot of a lot of tourmaline, aquamarine, emerald, and that kind of stuff. But
I mean, like most of the stuff they pull out of the ground, like just even uncut, just it's like.
Big chunkies.
Yeah, and it's not even like big chunky, like there's deformed. It's like the hand of God just came down and like and then he is just like, I'm gonna make this the most chaotic region in the entire world, but I'm gonna put the prettiest things in here.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of influences that change. It's interesting to see how different political and different the world issues that come up and things that happen also, if they have a big impact on people, if that's their way of living, is they are a miner or a cutter or that sort of thing, it can change things pretty dramatically. So it's interesting to like see, it's kind of one of those like niche worlds that, I mean, there's so many different ones, but it's like stones in general. It's like, well, it's a worldwide business, and you have cutters here, you've got, miners, you got jewelers, you got the whole thing, and it's a worldwide network, which for me is really enticing because I want to bridge that gap.
So for people across the world and stuff, make some connections.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That's kind of the goal. So
Sampson there.
yeah, it's something that I find cultures very fascinating, different cultures and languages. So part of me doing the GIA, the gemology course, is I'm considering doing part of it in Thailand, because they have a headquarters in Thailand and a few other countries as well.
The nice thing about that is it's like if you save up like 15 grand, you'll live like a king.
For sure. Yeah, it would be very cheap to live. The course is about the same cost there even, but the cost of living would be way cheaper. And I love Thai food, So yeah, so for me that would be nice, but
no-brainer.
We'll see. I don't speak any Thai. I speak a bit of Spanish. I'm not 100% fluent, but I can hold conversation in Spanish. But Thai
here's a great part. Like I use my phone over there. And just like speak into it.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing is, we have the technology to bridge some of those gaps in ways that wouldn't have been doable without a translator or something. So.
And who knows? Maybe you'll find some dude or something that can translate for you.
Hey, who knows? We'll see. It's like a 2-month class. The one I'm looking at doing there is like 2 months. So it's not so long that I think 6 months would be a little much for me. Not being able to talk in my native language for that long, I could see that being a big challenge. But for 2 months, being able to study diamonds for 2 months in Thailand and then have access to the gem markets all within you know what I mean? To me, that's kind of a no-brainer. If you could do both there, or even just go visit and start seeing this world on a bigger scale and all right, this is what I've experienced is the huge gem show in Tucson, big gem show in Denver, local smaller shows. That's cool. That's a good experience, but how does this look on a bigger scale? And how could that play into the future of where I want to take this? It's kind of where I'm looking at now is what do I really want out of this? What's important to me, and then how can I bring those things together in a way that is rewarding, internally, but also provides a life for me and eventually kids and whatnot, and kind of providing stability. So it's a work in progress, but it's coming together. So
yeah, 100%. If you had one thing, I asked everybody when I interviewed this, if you had one thing on your headstone, which I'm gonna have to think about how to ask Vernon because he's 67, so he's right.
Yeah.
But if you had one thing or one quote or one sentence that would transcend time that you were known for, what would it be? Great question, right?
Yeah, I have an answer though.
Man!
So
ready for it.
Let's venture into nature's wonder and say thank you, if nothing more.
Is that your own thing?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
like that.
I was part of I wrote at one time. I was writing a lot, and that came from it was almost a slam poet, a slam poem about dandelions. Just about the value that dandelions offer and their different multiple benefits and what they can be used for, and the fact that we typically here in the U.S. spray them with weed killer and poison them and then poison the ground.
The thing that can heal
a
lot.
So that was at the end of that one. It's at the very end of the poem I say, if nothing else, let's take a moment. Let's venture into nature's wonder and say thank you, if nothing more. So that's kind of that would be on my headstone, I think. Yeah, that's my word.
What would your headstone be made out of if you could choose a stone?
If I could choose any stone, Oh man, that I actually don't know. I have never really thought about that. Hopefully, I don't know. I feel like I don't even know, man.
Like a giant quartz piece with like a...
I mean, maybe, yeah, just like a...
That'd be pretty dope, just see like a...
Big quartz and it's...
Giant quartz.
Quartz crystal,
yeah.
It's just like, etched into it. Maybe, sure, yeah, we'll go with that. Like a big piece. Or, I don't know, I could say something more like labradorite would be kind of cool, like...
Yeah, people would try to steal that.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone's going to rob your headstone, man, it's kind of low, but if I could pick anything, I'd say, sure, we'll go with labradorite,
Oh yeah, like Big Blue Jimmy?
Just kind of like just a normal one, maybe not covered in flashy, but when the light, as the sun travels throughout the day, it makes different colors,
I get it.
Wouldn't have to be crazy, just I think it'd be kind of cool.
I think like if I could... Okay, this is going to sound egotistical, but meteorite, 100% meteorite.
Heck yeah.
Like, and if not a meteorite, like for my headstone, because I haven't decided if I wanted to be buried or cremated.
Yeah.
I'm leaning more towards cremation. If I was to be stuck in a canister, it'd probably be like made out of some metal from space. But
cool.
My ideal thing is to like just give it to people that I have met. And then somebody's going to have to run with the bulls. That's just the thing that's going to have to happen. They're going to have to dump it in the Toro Arena.
There you go. Yeah, I'm more of the type. I'll probably be cremated, and I'm more of like a tree person. Like if you could plant something where I was,
or you can actually get a diamond made out of you. But get this, the diamond's different colors based on the person.
Okay.
Because of the physical composition.
I'd rather be like a tree or something on it. I'd rather be a plant, I'd more so like my family, or when I have kids, like they'd be like, oh yeah, this is your great grandpa. This is like this tree, this or this type of plant.
Maybe you could plant it as a redwood.
Maybe, yeah. I'd be cool with any tree. Be like, yo, that's the one.
I'm a little ego driven.
I mean. I feel like redwoods take a long time to grow, It's hard to say what'll happen.
For like thousands of years, though.
Yeah, as long as fires stay away and, things don't shift too dramatically.
That is true.
I like that. That's a good question, though. I like that. Yeah, for me, I guess like once I'm dead,
doesn't really matter.
If I could pick something cool, sure, but at that point, I won't really care what, what really ends up happening.
In the next realm of existence, just trying to...
Yeah, I won't care if it was quartz or marble or a freaking pebble on the... it's like, all right, that's cool. But it is kind of nice. I mean, like, even for my parents, like, I go visit my parents' headstones. That is kind of a nice thing, but, if their headstones were labradorite, I don't know if it'd be any cooler than what it is,
I don't know. You'd definitely be one of the trickiest people on the block, for sure.
Yep. I mean, it's cool. I like the quote thing though. I think that'd be something cool to think about. Is what do you want to? If you could give one message to the world or to your descendants, one phrase, what would it be? I like that. That's kind of cool. So.
Yeah, I haven't really had that question asked to me, so I haven't had an answer. So.
Hey, well, I would love to be that person.
Oh yeah.
If you had one phrase that you would give to the rest of your descendants, the world, what would be your phrase?
I'd probably say go for it and keep failing. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it. That's what's up.
Eventually you shall succeed.
Yeah. I believe that. I think you're right in that. It's like you keep, I believe the universe kind of works. So if you put in the effort, like it might take some time, but...
Yeah. It's just like a video game, man. You just chip away.
Yeah.
Chip away,
It leads you there, definitely. That's kind of how it feels with me. This whole deal with the stones, like, really, I would say 6 years is what I've been doing this for.
Yeah, it's evolved quite a bit in 6 years.
It's changed a lot, yeah. And I couldn't have imagined that the first time I went to the gem show that, 3 years later, 4 years later, or whatever it was, I'd be working that show for one of the biggest companies there, or
Yeah.
or that I wouldn't have imagined that. It would have been hard for me to. I would have been stoked about it, but there was no way I could have seen that was even a possibility at the time. So it was kind of like I was walking around in the dark.
Yeah, that happens.
I had an idea, like, well, I'm trying to get here, but I don't know, it was up to time and the world around me to line up those opportunities, and also the internal world to say, hey, this is the next thing. Well, I have to just call people and ask to work. And, I just have to call people that I've only met once or twice and say, hey, do you have a job? Like, I'll do anything. And
makes sense.
Then that, by happenstance, that led me to where I'm at now. And now it's like, all right, well, what happens if I go, what if? I'm kind of liking that phrase for
what if. Yeah, it's a great phrase to have. Not a lot of people, I think they say what now instead of what if, and that's not the way you should be.
Yeah, they both have their places. It's like, I think it's, if I can have both those things, like what if is a good idea generator. And then once you decide on a trajectory, then it's like, okay, well, I have the what if, but the what now is like the actions to, what little thing do what's the baby step to start getting there?
So when are the gym shows? How can people come out, see you, visit?
Absolutely. So the biggest one is in Tucson every year. That's January and February.
Which I've never gone. Got to figure that out.
Got to go. It's a good time. It's like 50 gem shows. It's not actually one Tucson gem show. It's like 50 shows. In a typical year, I don't know. It's starting to kind of build back up after COVID, but there's still international travel restrictions, so that limits who can come and the vendors that are there. So January, February in Tucson. I have a show in Phoenix that I'm doing for myself in early January, like January 6th in Phoenix.
Okay.
I try to do some local things. I don't have anything set for the next month. I'll probably do a First Friday here in Lincoln.
Oh, okay.
Either at Storm Cellar or at the Bay.
Storm Cellar, where's Storm Cellar?
It's like 13th and Arapahoe in the Indian Village Shopping Center.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, I know what you're talking
Jackie's
about.
over there, and she has done a really great thing with that place, and she does like a First Friday. Every First Friday she has artists and that sort of deal. So I've been doing that. That's kind of been my consistent space. And then the Bay is like the skate park, coffee shop, community center over on, it's like at 20th and Y Street. And they've been doing like a artist market, like thrift event that they've been doing once a month, I think. And I'm trying to get into that, but I just haven't heard back. So
things take time.
Yeah. So I'm doing online. But then the big shows are, I'm currently making a show schedule for 2022. I've sent out a bunch of applications, some in Arizona, some here in Nebraska, Iowa, Oregon, but
Oregon's amazing.
I'm still kind of trying to figure out, when am I going to go back to school? How do I balance
It'll all happen.
all of this?
You'll get it. It takes time.
Yeah. So for now, my main presence is online until I go do the shows in Arizona in January. So been working a lot on the Etsy, trying to get Etsy built up, and
I get you.
Focusing more on that, because that's I don't have like my personal website or that kind of thing. So trying out different sales avenues and trying to see what works and what doesn't.
Trial and error. Great thing. Well, okay. Is there anything else you want to tell the listeners or the viewers or the?
Oh man. Well, I would just say, like, if you have a goal, if you have a passion, follow it. In your spare time, whatever you can, even if that's an hour a week. There were several years where I was working at that pizza place, and I thought I wanted to be an artist. That's where this whole thing came from. When I was in high school, I wanted to be an artist. I drew. That was like, I had this idea and this dream of being an artist for a living. And I didn't believe in that, and that led me towards substances and doing other things. So coming back to that, it's been, having faith that I can be an artist and then turning that into a job. Like, I've had this idea, but it's taken a lot of time and effort and money too. Like, this is like a lot of things go into it, but if you have a goal, freaking follow it with what you can and ask for help. Like, don't ever be afraid to ask people who are successful in what you're trying to do for help. Ask them for feedback. Be willing to put yourself out there and maybe be uncomfortable to get some feedback, and be willing to be vulnerable and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Do you have any feedback? Like, what would you recommend? And, I have encountered a lot of great mentors and guides along the way. And I have a lot to be thankful because of that. And I'll continue to ask questions and say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm trying to go. Like, I see what have you done? How have you succeeded? How have you adapted and changed as so many things have evolved with technology and whatnot? But be willing to ask questions, and keep at it. It'll pay off in time.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to make your own adventure. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully you loved this episode. I hope you go back and listen to some of the others with some of the other guests I've had. And here soon, we're actually going to have our first sponsorship with
Awesome.
one of the Herbalife supplement companies.
Cool.
Kind of reached out to us. So with that being said, I'm going to let Sampson get back to his grind, and we're going to go ahead and bid you a farewell.
Awesome. Yeah, thank y'all for listening today. Hope you enjoy your holiday.
Thanks again for listening to the Wonder XP podcast and following along on the journey. Go ahead and rate, like, and share this to any of the social medias that you so happily desire. Also, go ahead, if you feel the need to, bringmetolife.com/WonderXP, where you can donate to the cause and help me bring more amazing people on this page. And if you feel that you need to understand yourself better, go ahead and sign up for an astro reading, where I will give you a detailed or summary version look as to what it is that makes you function and how you go about life. And as always, sometimes you just need to make your own adventure.